And there it is, guys. That's the new drum sound that I've been working on for the last couple of days. I hope you enjoy how it sounds. I certainly do. It's been a blast experimenting and moving stuff around and trying different tunings, different heads, and all that stuff that I've been up to the last couple of days to achieve this sound that is so much better, so much bigger and fuller and fatter than the sound I had before. Just for reference, if you haven't watched my old videos, here's what it used to sound like. I will probably upload like a guide sometime next week or something. Well, not necessarily a guide, but a video of sort of how I went about mixing, because I haven't really showed you guys any of the mixing. But what I have showed you is, if you haven't watched the vlogs over the last couple of days, I sort of went through the process, the experimentation, and all the stuff I did with the mics and heads and everything. You can click the annotation in the top right corner right now if you want to check that out, check the vlogs out, to sort of see some behind the scenes up to this point, to get the new sound that you just heard. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Let's continue with the walkthrough of the entire kit for those of you who are interested. So let's check it out. Okay, so let's get started with the drums first. The kit is a Tama Superstar Hyperdrive Birch kit with a King Drums custom maple snare. So let's start with the rack toms here. They're 10 by 6.5 and 12 by 7, so they're short stack tom, hence the hyperdrive name from the Tama series. So really shallow toms, and then the 16 by 14 floor tom with a 22 by 20 bass drum. So it's super deep bass drum as well, 20 inches deep. The snare, as I mentioned, is a King Drums custom snare. King Drums is a company, out of San Diego in the United States, a company which I proudly endorse, and they made me this beautiful custom snare. So it's the 13 by 7 maple. Sounds absolutely amazing, and I'm really proud to endorse these guys. So check out King Drums if you haven't already. You will not be disappointed. As for the heads on the snare drum, I'm using the Evans. Well, I'm using Evans on all the heads, but on the snare drum is an Evans heavyweight over a 300 hazy resonant. The rack toms both have G2 coated batter heads and resonant glass resonant heads. The floor tom is a bit interesting. It has the 16-inch EMAD head, which is actually a bass drum head. This one is kind of beat up now because I hit it a lot on the rim in the beginning when I wasn't used to it. But yeah, this is actually a bass drum head, but they do have, with the 16-inch version, maybe with the 18 as well, but with the 16-inch at least, they have a floor tom hoop version, because floor tom hoops and bass drum hoops are different, so the bass drum head won't fit on the floor tom, but this one does. And this is intended for those of you out there that like to convert 16-inch floor toms into bass drums for normal bass drum use. But I figured, like, why not just use it as a straight-up floor tom head? So that's what I did, and it sounds really cool. Underneath it, I have the Evans. You can hardly see it in there, but it's the EC resonant head. And you can actually see I have a bunch of cotton balls inside, which is the tip from Benny Greb, who uses this to get that really deep, thunderous, like really super thuddy floor tom sound that he always has. So I figured, why not try that? And it works really well. So as for the bass drum, the batter head here is a heavyweight head, and on the other side you can't see it here, but it's the EQ3 coated resonant head. So moving on to cymbals here, we have all Meinl cymbals, and from left to right here is a pair of 16-inch Byzance extra dry medium thin hi-hats. I absolutely love these, super dry, and I'm a big fan of big hats. The left side crash here is a 18-inch dual crash from the extra dry series, Byzance extra dry series. And right here we have a little stack. This is 10-inch Soundcaster Custom Piccolo Trash China on top of a 12-inch Generation X filtered China. So a 10/12 stack, really cool little stack right there. The splash here is a 10-inch Byzance Jazz Splash, also a really cool cymbal. And here's something interesting. This is actually a limited edition cymbal. It is a Meinl cymbal. It's from the Byzance series. It's a 22-inch Byzance Brilliant Trash Crash. So it's actually a crash from the beginning, but from what I've understood, it was sort of meant, like from the very beginning, it was meant to be a crash ride, but then they noticed it was like better off just being labeled as a crash. But it still says right here, ride/crash. And so I figured I'd use it as a ride. I used it as a crash in the beginning, but these days I'm using it as a ride. So I have this little cutout of an old head just to give it a little more ping on top, and also a little piece of tape underneath. So it works really well as a ride, and I love this cymbal. It's so unique and so cool. And then right here, the crash which I used to have over the 12-inch tom up until just now, actually, is a Byzance 20-inch extra thin hammered crash from the Byzance traditional series. Absolutely beautiful cymbal, really nice shimmer, and a lot of trashiness to the tone. I really like it. So that's pretty much it for the cymbals. I do have a couple of extra ones over here. I will show you. These are not on the kit right now, but every now and then they are. This is also a limited edition cymbal. This is a Byzance 20-inch extra dry medium thin crash. It actually says ride/crash on this one too. The reason it's a limited edition is because the extra dry series the crashes only come in thin weight or thickness or whatever. But this one is actually a medium thin, so it has a little more punch and it's a little better used as a ride because of the slightly more stick definition it has because of the extra weight. Really cool cymbal, which I mostly just use as sort of for small venue gigs because it works really well as a secondary ride source. I swapped that one out recently for this extra thin hammered crash right there. But yeah, really cool cymbal. It does come in use every now and then, but right now it's just standing here. This is a 18-inch Classics Custom trash china. Really nice china, very affordable and sounds super good. I use this one primarily for stacking with the 12-inch Generation filter china, Generation X filter china that's in my current stack. So when I want a bigger stack sound, I combine those two and it becomes a killer stack. But it also sounds absolutely fantastic as a standalone china, so whenever I record metal and stuff, I always have this one on the kit. Sounds amazing. And then right here is a 10-inch Byzance Dark Splash. I don't really use it right now as much as a splash, like straight up having two splashes on the kit. But what I do use it for is putting it underneath the extra dry 16-inch hats. Putting that underneath really dries them out even more. I mean, they're already dry as it is, but since they're so big, they can get a bit like sloshy or whatever. So putting this one under there really helps every single stroke be very audible and crisp. So that's a tip I got from Annika Nilles, who does that, but with the 12-inch traditional splash, I believe. But it's a really cool thing you can do, just putting that under your hi-hat. You should give that a try. You can also do that with chinas to get a really cool like effect sound. But anyway, moving on here to the last cymbal, or cymbals rather. This is a pair of Byzance 15-inch dark hi-hats, which were my main hi-hats before I got the extra dry ones. I use the extra dry ones pretty much for everything, but whenever I record, mostly like metal and stuff, these have a really cutting and actually a lot brighter sound than you would think. So they really cut through well, so I use these mostly for metal, but they do come in use for other situations as well. So that's pretty much it for the cymbals. They got really bright here for some reason. Camera focus is bugging me a little. But yeah, let's have a look at the mics that I'm using. I mentioned those in another video, but let's just give them a quick mention here. I use 8 mics in total. On the snare drum, I have an Audix i5 top on top of the snare, and just exactly the same one, another Audix i5 on the bottom. All the toms have the Sennheiser E604s on them, one on each. And then as sort of room mics, I use these, what you would typically use as overheads, the AKG C391B mics. So one right here, pointing in towards this side of the kit, and then one over here pointing in towards the other side of the kit. So, and for the bass drum, I'm using an Audix D6. I can go around to show you here. Right there, pointing a bit inside of the bass drum. And here you can also see the EQ3 Evans coated resonant head that I was talking about before. One quick thing I forgot to mention here while we're on this side. I also have these called drum tacks right here. They're sort of similar to moon gels, but in my opinion they're a lot better. Another company which I proudly endorse, and these are basically like they really help sort of eliminating overtones without actually killing the tone of the drum. So, for example, with this 12-inch rack tom, I've struggled a bit with getting rid of some of the overtones because it's a little funky to get this one to sound really good for whatever reason. But the drum tacks really help, so I can tune it just like I want it. And when the overtones get a little too much, I just put one and a half of them. Actually, I can cut them in half on here, and it eliminates them, and it still keeps that beautiful tone, so the drum sounds great. It doesn't muffle the heads too much, so really good use to put those on there. I also have a half one here on the snare drum. So right now I'm leaving a lot of overtones in the snare, but whenever I want to like dampen it completely, usually 1 or 1.5 or even 2 of them does the job. And you get them in packs of 4. It's a really cool product. You should definitely give it a try. I can't stress enough how much better they are than moon gels. They don't leave any sticky blue residue or anything behind. They're super clean, and yeah, really neat little product. As for sticks, I'm using Wincent drumsticks. It's a Swedish brand, but they're fairly international as well, so they make really cool sticks actually. This is a pair of 5B round tip sticks. So they're basically your average 5B sticks, just with the rounded tip right here. Really cool sticks, they're super durable. And I have another pair right here, which is normal 5B sticks. So these really last forever. I love them. They're really affordable too. So great pair of sticks right there. Moving on to hardware. As for the pedal right here, it's a Tama Iron Cobra with the wood beater on it, and it actually has. You can see the cam here is a bit different. It's what's it called? Eccentric Systems, the quick torque cam. So what this does, it adds just a little more snap to the feel of the pedal, so I can get a really solid hit without having to like really lay into it too much. Really cool little product right there. But the pedal, as I said, is a Tama Iron Cobra, the Power Glide version. I do have a pair of double pedals as well, the pair of Pearl Demon drives, but I'm not using them right now. I'm playing primarily with the single pedal. But whenever I need to play some metal and stuff, I put those on there. So the direct drive Pearl Demon drives. As for the rest of the hardware, it's mostly, I'll go around here so you can see it properly. It's mostly Gibraltar hardware. I have a few parts which are Pearl, like this little cymbal clamp right here. Or rather, yeah, this multi-clamp right there is a Pearl clamp, and the hi-hat stand is a Pearl one as well. But the rest, pretty much all of the other hardware is like my sort of custom-built rack, I guess, that I made out of primarily using the Gibraltar Stealth racks, which is this like low-profile rack right here, and the similar one going over the pedals here. If I would have a double pedal running underneath there, you can see this whole thing. And I basically took one on each side there and combined that with a sort of rack bar in the middle and put together a bunch of different stands and stuff and formed this really cool, somewhat low profile rack. So really cool stuff right there. And then I have this one cymbal on a stand off its side. I'll probably integrate that into the rack at some point, but I just changed that like the other day, so I haven't gotten around to it. So what's left here? We have, yeah, I always use these, the Tama Quick Lock or whatever they're called, cymbal wing nuts. So you just push down on this and lift it up like that, and then so you don't have to screw them or anything. Just push them together, put them down, and they do an amazing job. I know some people complain about these, that they keep falling off, but the only reason they would ever fall off is if you have like a vintage stand, like an only really old stand, or one of the cheaper models of stands, because they have like thinner rods here. So this Tama, what's it called? I can keep forgetting the name. The quick lock, quick set cymbal nut or whatever. It doesn't fit for those sizes, but for pretty much any new, like not super cheap stand, these will fit. So absolutely love them. They're super handy. Another quick little thing that I use, which is also really cool, is the Gibraltar I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's kind of quick release hi-hat clutch might be the name of it. So it has like on the inside a little, instead of having to screw the little wing nut in there, you just kind of pull it off. It's super. So whenever you change your hi-hats, it's like it takes like 2 seconds. It really comes in handy if you swap hi-hats a lot. But what's left here is the audio interface, which I use for recording. It's a Phonic 808 Firefly U interface. And I also have a Soundcraft EPM 8 mixer. I only use this pretty much for Skype lessons and that kind of stuff, to get a good sound into Skype, and also for monitoring myself when I just play for fun. But the Phonic 808 Firefly is what I use for recording. And the computer is just like an Asus laptop, nothing too fancy. I can't even remember the exact name of it, some weird combinations of numbers and letters. But yeah, nothing too fancy, and it really does the job. So what more can I say? The throne here is also a Gibraltar throne with the back seat. Can't remember the exact, the backrest. Can't remember the exact name of this one either, but it's one of those hydraulic ones. So it has a little lever here where you can push and sort of, yeah, you don't have to, swivel it around or anything. You just sort of like a computer, like an office chair kind of thing, where you just, push that lever and you go up or down. So it's really cool. I believe that's pretty much it, right? Let me know if I missed anything. It's a bunch of stuff here. But I believe that is pretty much it. Oh yeah, I have a kick port here as well. Since I have my mic inside of it, it doesn't really do anything for recordings, but it does give the drum a little more presence in the room itself, like acoustically. It's also a pretty neat product, but it doesn't come too much in use, as I said, since I keep my mic inside of the bass drum. It sounds best that way. So yeah, I believe that's pretty much it. So thank you guys once again so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions whatsoever regarding the setup or any of the parts or what I think of them, or anything. Just let me know down below in the comments, and I'll catch you guys soon. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.